Hi, this is Michael Buffer, and welcome to the BoxHard Podcast.
Hello, everyone. This is Mikey Garcia.
This the monster from the swamps, Regis Rougarou Program.
Hey, what's up? This is King Carlos Molina, former IBF world champ.
This is Michael, the Bounty Hunter, 2012 Olympian and your people's champ.
This is Charlie Edwards, flyweight champion of the world.
This is Fast Eddie Chambers, and you're listening to the BoxHard Podcast with my main man, Joey Coastman.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 290 of the BoxHard Podcast. I'm your host, Joey Coastman. I'm joined as ever by Mr. Fast Eddie Chambers. Eddie, welcome to the show once again. How are you, my man?
I'm good, my man. How you feeling?
Always good when speaking with you, Eddie, and I truly mean that. This show is going to be, I guess, slightly lengthy. We're going to be, talking about the review part of the show. Quite a lot to review, both from Friday and Saturday evening, both from the UK and the US. Then, of course, we will have our sole guest. Then, in part two, we will, of course, begin with the news part of the show. At this stage, I don't think there's too much news, if anything, at the minute. So, yeah, I don't think there's anything just yet. That could change. And then, of course, the preview part of the show. And once again, there's not too much to preview, to be honest. Mainly the card in the US with Canelo, it being Canelo Fight Week. But anyway, before we get into any of that, let's start with the review part of the show. We're going to start here at the Mecca of Boxing in the UK, the York Hall in Bethnal Green, London. Let's start with the undercard. A win for Ryan Garner. He has 10 wins now, double figures, a points win over 6 rounds against Jordan Ellison, who's now 11-33 with 2 draws. Garner did get cut, though, quite bad in the third round. Win for Troy Williamson. He was able to TKO in round 6 Kieran Smith, the previously undefeated 16-0 man. Really good stoppage, actually, from Troy Williamson. It was a really close fight with the bookmakers as well. Troy Williamson now 16-0 with a draw. Elsewhere on the card, we had Michael Conlon against I still don't know how to pronounce this guy's first name, but Ian Baluta. He's now 14-3. Michael Conlon 15-0. It was for the WBO International Super-Bantamweight title. A majority decision over 12 rounds in the end. It seems like this guy Baluta is maybe better than his record suggests, which I think I said before. He was on a bit of a run, quite a lot of momentum behind him going into that fight there. Or is Michael Conlon just not quite as good as some people think? We're still unsure. I remember him being kind of matched like nose and nose when he turned pro with Shakur Stevenson, but you've got to think, what would Shakur Stevenson do to a guy like Baluta? It doesn't end in a majority decision. You can bet your life on that one. But yeah, Michael Conlon, a win for him in the end, I guess. I thought it would be easier than what it was, but it wasn't that easy, to be honest with you. Yeah, and the main event, Maruti Umfalane, I think I've said that right, actually, for the first time ever. He lost his IBF World Flyweight title. He was in search of win number 40, but it wasn't to be. He's now 39-3. A unanimous decision, very wide in the end, for Croydon's very own Sonny Edwards. This guy literally was born, I think, maybe even in the same hospital as me. We're that close in terms of our location. He's now 16. And friend of the show, Sonny Edwards, very, very, very pleased for him. I'm just going to run through those 12 rounds. First round, brilliant start to the fight from Sonny Edwards. Totally bossed the round. He was unbelievable with his movement. Talani just didn't land a glove. Round 2, once again, more excellent work from Sonny Edwards. He wasn't just running and boxing off the back foot. He was standing and trading at times and getting the better of it. Hooks from both hands. He was switching stances. He was jabbing to the body. He found his opponent with uppercuts. Everything, it was a puzzle for Talani. Good body shots as well from Sonny Edwards. Talani was just bamboozled, to be honest, and the smoothness as well of how Edwards switches from orthodox to southpaw and back to orthodox again and again is almost unnoticeable. And that is a real talent in itself. Round 3, a bit of a closer round, but still an Edwards round. More of the same. Talani did get a little bit closer, though. Round 4, another round for Edwards. Again, a much closer one for me. Talani was starting to close that gap. Edwards was breathing hard in the corner as well at the end of round 4. Round 5, Talani was starting to look old in there. The writing started to appear on the wall. If Edwards couldn't keep up the pace, though, I felt he could be in some trouble. Like I say, he was breathing heavy the round before, but so far at that point, it was perfect. It was perfect from him. He hadn't put a foot wrong. Round 6, another round for Edwards. Perhaps he was tiring a little bit. He was starting to not sit down between rounds, which I thought, okay, is he maybe feeling it? But, still outclassing the champion through the first half of the fight. Round 7, probably Talani's best round of the fight at that point, but I wasn't sure he did enough to win the round. Edwards was really, really tired. I was starting to wonder, are we going to see another Jez Smith type performance where you start the fight excellently and then it all comes crashing down? Thankfully, that wasn't the case. Round 8, another round for Edwards again. Talani really just couldn't land on Edwards. He's so hard to hit. It's incredible. And I just can't. I sound like I'm fanboying, but I can't even describe how good Sonny was. Round 9, Richie Woodall gave that round to Talani, but I still wasn't so sure. It was another much better round for Talani, but I don't think he did enough to win it. Round 10, another one that Richie had close, and the corner of Sonny thought so as well, but I actually thought it was another Edwards round. I gave it to Edwards in the end by shutout. I gave him the 11th and the 12th. The 12th round, he just spent the round making Talani miss, and he was countering him. But talent-wise, it was pound for pound like. He was incredible, to be honest with you, Sonny Edwards. I don't think he's my biggest fan because I've tried to get him on the show, and we had a tiny little disagreement once upon a time. So I don't think he wants to come back on or whatever. But listen, I will always support anyone that's been on this podcast, and I am so pleased for him. I'm so pleased for the UK getting a new world champion. I'm so pleased that he was able to dethrone a guy that hadn't lost for 13 years, and that loss 13 years ago was to a peak Nonito Donaire. It was a massive win for Sonny Edwards. And really pleased for him. So that's him and his brother, Charlie Edwards, who's on the intro every week. They're brothers. They've both been world champions. That is something, especially coming from a small place like Croydon, where I'm from. Moving out now to the Manchester Arena in the UK. Did you hear about any of these fights at all on this card here, Eddie?
I'm not sure. Like which give me some of the
okay,
card.
So we will get to it, but in the main event, Derek Chisora dropped Joseph Parker in the first 7 seconds of the first round.
I did hear a little bit about it, but I didn't really get a chance to see much of it. I did hear about it.
Okay, well, let's start there then, I guess, with the the main event there. The first round, like I say, Chisora put Parker down in 7 seconds of the first round. I don't think Parker was overly hurt. He didn't seem that hurt to me. It looked like it was a shot a little bit behind the head as well. And, Parker finished the round well, but obviously a 10-8 round. Round 2, Chisora was starting to gas, already. But he was still pressing the action. Parker was being made to answer some questions. More of the same in the third round, really. Parker was probably getting the better of it, I felt, but he was struggling to get space. And from that point onwards, I decided to stop really kind of, breaking it down round by round. So in the end, I felt Parker probably did enough to get it, and in the end he did. It was a split decision after 12 rounds. Joseph Parker now 29-2, Derek Chisora 32-11. I said it on last week's show. I didn't think anyone was going to get stopped in that one there, and I thought Joseph Parker would win on points, and actually that was what happened. So I got that one right there. But yeah, unfortunately, I didn't have too much more insight on the fight. But Derek Chisora, his style that he comes forward, he gasses out, but he still carries on going for the rest of the fight. It is a problem for guys that can't deal with that pressure. You've got to be in really tip-top condition, which I think Joseph Parker was. He still looked pretty fresh late on. But Derek Chisora gives a lot of heavyweight fighters problems, and that is just the way it's going to be. And I would like to see him in there with someone like a Joshua, even though the fight I don't think is ever going to happen. But you know, he gives a lot of guys problems, I'm telling you that. Elsewhere on the card, James Tennyson, 28-4 now against Giovanni Straffon, 23-4 with a draw. It was for the vacant IBO World Lightweight title. The Mexican came out of absolutely nowhere. No one wanted to see the fight because it was going to be so bad. And it was another time where the Mexican was able to completely tear up the script and you know, defeat a Brit. And he knocked out Tennyson in one round. No one saw that coming. For Tennyson, it could be the end of the road. You know, he can't seem to take it when it's being put on him. He can really dish out a beating. You know, he's a big puncher. He can dish it out, but he just can't really take it. I don't think he ever deserved a world title shot, but when he got one, he got stopped by Tevin Farmer, who really doesn't knock anyone out. And, you know, this is a comeback trail which he's on, and it's come to a halt badly. I think that honestly could be the end of the road for him. Elsewhere on the card, Dimitri Bivol, now 18-0, a unanimous decision over 12 rounds against Craig Richards, now 16-2 with a draw. Friend of the show, Craig Richards. Friend of the show, Dimitri Bivol. But I was gutted for Richards in a way, because this was a big chance for him. It was for the WBA Super World Light Heavyweight title. In the end, though, a very close fight on the cards. Two judges had it to Bivol by just 1 point. One had it by 1 point, one had it by 2 points. It was really, really close. I had it really close as well. Not a lot of people did. I felt that, you know, the first round, Bivol was straight on the front foot. Craig was happy to box on the outside. Richards was doubling up with a jab. That worked a few times. Bivol was struggling to get on the inside of Richards. I gave the round to Richards. Round two, Bivol was really starting to hit Richards with ease. He was piercing through Richards' guard with big jabs, power jabs. Bivol wasn't really letting the right hand go, but more so he was doing everything with the left hand, sometimes doubling up with the left hand like a jab followed by a left hook. He was catching Richards a bit too easily. I gave Bivol that round. Round three, best punch of the round was a straight right hand from Richards. It knocked the head back of Bivol. Really, really close round. Bivol probably was doing more of the work overall, but Richards, I think, was landing the better shots, even if, you know, there were fewer of them. And Richards was also riding a lot of Bivol's shots. It was a really close round. Round four, I think maybe a round for Richards. Maybe I'm the worst judge ever, because it was hard to not get biased, but I felt Bivol's work rate had dropped significantly in the mid rounds. Well, no, not really in the mid-rounds, but sort of in the fourth round, around that area. What I did like to see is Craig was really relaxed. He didn't look out of his depth. He wasn't overwhelmed. He didn't freeze. He was very comfortable. Round five I gave to Richards as well. But the commentators did not agree with me at all. And, it was kind of crazy. I was going on Twitter and everyone was saying that it was like Bivol's fight completely. I think there was someone that didn't give Craig a single round in the first 6 rounds, and I gave him, 1, 2, 3, I think. In the second half of the fight, Bivol for me nicked the 7th and 8th. I gave Richards the 10th. I can't remember what happened in the 9th. I think that was a close one. And then he finished really strong as well, Richards. He finished strong in the 11th and 12th. So I don't know. It was a really, really close fight. A couple rounds I kind of missed with the stream I was on. It kept letting me down and then kicking back in. But yeah, Richards came on strong in the late rounds. He was outworking Bivol. Bivol was almost asleep in terms of his work rate. It was just non-existent. So huge respect to Richards. What a fighter. What a huge mammoth step up in class as well, from British level right to the top of the world there. And he wasn't knocked out, he wasn't hurt, he wasn't disgraced. It was the hardest fight I've seen Bivol win as well. So credit to Craig Richards. Really, really, really lots of credit. And yeah, Bivol, he didn't look like the tactician, the breakdown killer that some people thought he was. So yeah, I still want to see him fight Beterbiev. We'd all love to see that. The all-Russian showdown for all the marbles there. Elsewhere on the card, what did we have? Let's talk about Katie Taylor, she was able to move to 18-0. She defended her WBC, WBA, IBF and WBO lightweight world titles against Natasha Jonas, who's now 9-2 with a draw. You know what? It was a great fight, to be completely honest. It really was closer than I felt it should have been. I think Katie Taylor, I said it on last week's show, I believe, I thought she was too precise of a puncher, and I thought she might even stop Natasha Jonas. But Natasha Jonas seems like she's improved tenfold since losing to Obernauf. That seems a real age ago now. And Katie Taylor, she just about scraped it. Like I say, another really close fight. I feel for Jonas because she's getting up there in age now. I'm not sure she's ever going to be a world champ, unfortunately. And she's pushed Katie Taylor really close. She's pushed Terry Harper really close. And yeah, based on that performance and a few last performances from Katie Taylor, I don't think you can really have her as the pound for pound best, because she seems to be in a lot of close fights these days, but she's up in age as well. I think she's actually on her last legs. I don't think she should fight someone like an Amanda Serrano or someone like a Jessica McCaskill even. Oh my God. But yeah, anyway, good stuff there for women's boxing once again. I'm all for that. Elsewhere on the card, we had Chris Eubank Jr. move to win number 30. Roy Jones Jr. was in the corner with him. He's got those 2 losses, Eubank. He was able to unanimously beat over 10 rounds Marcus Morrison, who's now 23-4. I've got to say, he made me eat my words a little bit, Marcus Morrison. I thought he'd be knocked out in a round or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 at the very worst. Eubank did hurt him a few times, then he just laid off him. It's like he wanted him to recuperate. Not sure what was going on there. I expected more from Eubank. I thought he'd stop Morrison with ease, and I think going the distance isn't really a good look. And like I say, he had boxed, DeGao, a former world champion. He was able to look good in that fight. I was there for that one. Then he beat by hook or by crook, Matt Korobov, and then he dropped down hugely in levels for this one, and he didn't even get the stoppage. I don't think it's left a lot of people, excited to see his next fight. Elsewhere on the card, once again, Scott Fitzgerald with a win. Good to see him back. A 3rd round TKO against Gregory Trenel, who's now 13-7 with 2 draws. Scott Fitzgerald 15-0. I didn't actually see it, but Campbell Hatton, he moved to 2-0, a points win over Levi Dunn, who is 0-5. Campbell Hatton, both his pro fights have gone the distance. I think that is it for that card there. I've tried to go through that as quick as possible. Yep, that's it for that one. Moving out now to Carson, California, USA. This is the final card to mention of the review part of the show. Let's start with the undercard. A draw for Adrian Granados. It seems like he is always in close fights and doesn't really get much luck, to be honest. He's now 21-8 with 3 draws, a majority draw over 8 rounds against Jose Luis Sanchez, who's now 11-1 with a draw. Elsewhere on the card, we had Erislandy Lara with a knockout in the first round. I think it was in about 40 seconds or something like that against Thomas Lamanna. Erislandy Lara. I thought it had points written all over it, that fight there. He's not always in exciting fights. He doesn't usually get an early knockout, but he did there, and it was for the vacant WBA middleweight world title. So Lara now a world champion at middleweight. Thomas Lamanna now 30-5 with a draw. Erislandy Lara 28-3 with 3 draws. Sebastian Fundora, the towering inferno, the man 6'5", really bad blunder from the commentator. I'm not sure which commentator it was, but one of the commentators said that they read somewhere that Sebastian Fundora, who is 6'5" or 6'6", is taller than Tyson Fury. So that made me giggle. Sebastian Fundora now, though, 17-0 with a draw, a TKO in the 4th round against Jorge Cota. It was an absolute firefight, especially the first round. The 2 guys were just going at it, hell for leather. Cota now 30-5. He came and gave it a right go, he really did, but the towering inferno got there in the end, and I think he's going to be a problem for a lot of guys. Like I say, he's absolutely huge for the weight, and when he gets the full extension on his punches, it is dangerous. Like I said, the first round was amazing. The full leverage on his shots, is lethal. Both guys got caught with big shots in the first round. Both guys got rocked. Fundora did start to dominate. I think at the end, at the end of the sort of first round, I think he started to take over a little bit. Then that was really it. I think at the end of the fight that they actually said that Fundora threw 2 jabs the whole fight. Everything else was power punches. He was hitting Kota at will at the end, with full leverage on his shots, and Kota was getting hurt badly, and the referee after a while decided to jump in and stop it. The crowd booed, but I thought it was the right thing to do there from the referee. 139 power shots, Eddie, against 2 jabs Fundora threw.
Yeah, well, he had knockout on his mind, and he went for it. And that's, and obviously, my style of boxing and what I like to do. But, I mean, if you have the opportunity to do it and you want to take the guy out, by all means, you don't get paid for overtime.
No, you certainly don't, and it was a brilliant win from him once again. One of my favourite prospects of 2020. Elsewhere on the card, Omar Figueroa Jr., former lightweight world champion, now 28-2 with a draw. He actually was pulled out by his corner at the end of round 6 against Abel Ramos, 27-4 with 2 draws. I didn't see that coming at all. Gutted for Omar Figueroa, friend of the show. Really confusing style as well. He was coming off a lot of inactivity, but he was deciding to use so much upper body movement initially. It looked tricky and it looked unorthodox, but it seemed to be quite an easy puzzle for Ramos to solve, and he started timing his shots to perfection. Ramos had a big round in the 4th round. Figueroa had a nightmare start to the fight. Like I say, he was using a lot of energy but not doing a whole lot offensively. Figueroa took a real beating. I didn't give him a round in the fight, and like I say, his corner stopped it. I was pleased for Ramos because it's a big win. It's the biggest win of his career. I'm devastated for Figueroa, and I actually think that could be the end. Figueroa doesn't really live the life. We're going to be speaking to his brother, by the way, Brandon Figueroa, later on in the show. But yeah, Omar Figueroa doesn't really live the life. It's come back to bite him, I think. And if he retired tomorrow, I'm not sure he's got enough money to not need to work again, which is sad. He was really once a top fighter with talent, with promise, and I'm not sure what's left in the tank now. I can't see him becoming a world champion, especially up at welterweight. His best days were at lightweight, and that was 7 years ago. Where has the time gone? But yeah, gutted for him. Anyway, moving on to the main event. Let's go to that now. Andy Ruiz, now 34-2. He was able to beat over 12 rounds unanimously Chris Arreola, who's now 38-7 with a draw. However, it wasn't all smiles and rainbows. He was down in the 2nd round, Andy Ruiz. Firstly, Arreola weighed in, Eddie, at his career lowest, which I thought was quite impressive from a guy who's 40 years of age now.
Yeah, that's crazy. I didn't know that. Wow.
Yeah.
The lowest it shows that he really, really had a go of it. He really wanted to really get out there and see what he could do. You know what I mean? And I give him all the credit. Anybody who gets in there at this stage in their career when most people are talking about retirement, not saying that he's not, but to go in there and put that kind of effort, to get into shape, to really, really get into shape and go out there and put on, from what I understand, I mean, I didn't get a chance to watch much of it, any of it actually. He actually gave a good account of himself. So, all the respect to Chris Arreola. I honestly didn't think he had a shot in the dark, but, I was wrong in a sense to say that he didn't have a puncher shot because he obviously dropped him. But credit to him, man. He really worked. He got himself in shape, and he really tried to win. And that's great.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially, the fact that he was coming off almost 2 years out the ring since losing to Adam Kalnacki back in August of 2019. And I know what Chris Arreola has been like in the past. He's not a guy that would normally train when he didn't have a fight lined up. He would just kind of eat rubbish and not train and do whatever, abuse it really. yeah, he came in, like I said, 228.5 pounds, which is the lowest of his entire career, which obviously spans back to 2003, which is amazing. Yeah, but the fight itself, round one, Ruiz, was showing his really quick hands. We know about the unbelievably quick hands he's got, and he threw some stabbing jabs, real spiteful looking stuff, and and going to the body with those jabs as well, upstairs and downstairs. He landed a lovely straight right hand also. Round two, quick in the round as well. Down he went, Ruiz, out of nowhere. He came back. He didn't seem that hurt, but I think he was also hurt again late on in the round, but the shot that put him down was a right hand behind the ear. A 10-8 round for Chris Arreola. Round three, a rocky start to the round for Ruiz again. He was hurt early with a left hook, and I've got no idea how he didn't go down. He crouched down like his legs buckled. He almost kind of sat down on an imaginary chair, but he did manage to stay up. He managed to regroup, and he started measuring his shots better, and he finished strong. It was a Ruiz round, but a very crazy fight through the first three rounds. Round four, a round for Ruiz. He was walking Arreola down, but one thing I noticed was that Ruiz kept ducking to his right, which Arreola tried a few times to land that same chopping right hand behind the ear of Ruiz that put him down. Arreola came close with that shot a few times. Round five, a round for Ruiz. He caught Arreola with some nice eye-catching shots. Nothing too kind of silly from Ruiz. He wasn't overcommitting. It was clever. He always finishes off his combinations with a left hook as well. I think he was fighting a little bit too aggressive in this fight. I think he was fighting a little bit too much like a one-punch kind of knockout artist. He was boxing a little bit like when he hurt Anthony Joshua, and he was just going for it with all-out aggression. And he is more of a boxer than a slugger. I felt he was loading up a little bit too much needlessly. Round six, a round for Ruiz. Round seven, a round for Ruiz. Every time Ruiz would throw a combination, it was exactly the same three-punch combination. A left jab, obviously, a straight right, and then a left hook. Same thing every time. Round eight, possible shoulder injury for Arreola. He turned away and winced for a second, and Areola's chin, though he's still, he's still 40 years of age, he's still got a great chin. He showed that there. A round for Ruiz in the 8th, a big round for Ruiz in the 9th. Credit to both guys for their conditioning as well. We didn't see breathing like we did in the Chisora Parker fight, where it was mainly Chisora gassing out badly. This is a 40-year-old man, and Andy Ruiz, who of course is never in tip-top shape on the eye. They were really, still full of energy. Round 10, a Ruiz round. Round 11, a really good round. I had Arreola winning the round until the last few seconds. It was a close one. It could have gone either way. Good jabs from Arreola. Ruiz looked a bit tired maybe in that 11th round. Round 12, a Ruiz round to close the show. And like I say, credit to both guys, both tough as hell. And they put on a show. They put on a much better fight than people expected, like yourself, like me as well. And a lot of people in the end were happy paying the pay-per-view price based on that performance in the main event, which we don't always hear people say. But yeah, that's it for the reviewing. I've gone through that as quick as possible. Was there anything you wanted to add to any of those fights, Eddie? I didn't really come to you much, obviously, during the review part.
No, I wanted to say about Arreola, him actually putting forth the effort. I mean, I know we used to hear him always talk about, Big Bear and how he didn't want to go to Big Bear, and you could just tell he just didn't have the right attitude, toward his training, and really didn't, I don't think, respected the game enough, and got the shot with Vitaly Klitschko. And, not to say that he wasn't prepared or he didn't try to train or he didn't get himself in shape as much as he could at the time, but he didn't respect the game as much as he did, as he does now. And as an older man, you need everything. You're going to need your best effort in every way to be as good as you could possibly be on the night, because, you're not quite as young as you used to be. So it's going to take a little more effort. And I'm just happy to see that somebody like that actually showed that, hey, just because I'm aging, doesn't mean that I'm gone. And he gave a good account of himself. He put hands on Andy Ruiz, which I didn't think he was going to do. And even just getting down to that weight, and just coming to fight, it was a victory for him. So, I mean, his stock obviously must have went up some, at least, even in this situation in a loss. And it's just good to see, man. It's good heavyweight boxing like that. Two guys getting it in. And, I didn't really think that it was worthy of a pay-per-view, but I guess maybe, you got your money's worth out of that fight. Two Mexican guys who we all know how tough Mexican guys are and how they like to fight. So, maybe next time we respect it a little more,
Absolutely. And that wraps up the review part of the show. The final thing to do just before we wrap up part one is to welcome our sole guest. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the reigning WBA Super-Bantamweight World Champion. He's back on the show. It is, of course, Mr. Brandon Figueroa. Brandon, welcome back on, man.
Thank you for having me once again, and I appreciate the opportunity.
Hey, it's always great speaking with you, my friend. You're welcome whenever you want. So, Brandon, we last spoke back in August. It was just before that fight, your last fight, obviously, against Damian Vasquez. That was another excellent win for yourself. You became the first man to stop him. Just give me a couple words on that successful night back there in the later part of last year.
Yeah, I knew he wasn't gonna take the volume of punches, the power, just the body shots, just everything that I bring into a fight. I knew he was a tough fighter. He was a Mexican. He was gonna come with everything. But at the end of the day, I knew that I was going to outwork him and outpunch him. So that's exactly what we did. Our game plan worked, and as you saw, the results came through, and he just couldn't handle the punishment.
And that's the thing, Brandon, because you bring a whole lot, and obviously your alias, your nickname is the Heartbreaker. Is that from your youngish boy kind of looks with the ladies, or is it that you break guys' hearts in the ring? I've never known the answer to that question.
I guess it's just the fact that when I was fighting Mexico, it was it just came from origin, from a little row of girls that I would go fight in Mexico in the arena. And every time I would step into the arena, there was like girls waiting for me. Oh, the Heartbreaker's here, the Heartbreaker's here. So I guess it's because of my boyish look, my baby face, and my blue eyes that I guess that's where the nickname came from. And we stuck to it ever since.
And nowadays you get in the ring and break a lot of guys' hearts with, your punch volume and stuff like that. Before we get on to your upcoming fight, which is, of course, the main reason you're on, we must talk about the disappointing fact that your brother Omar was unsuccessful on the weekend against Abel Ramos. I must say, I did not see that coming. I know you were sat ringside. What did you make of his performance, and how is he, if you've had time to speak with him afterwards?
Yeah, he's great. I mean, it's a part of boxing. That's where you always got to go into fights 100%. I'm not with him 100% most of the time of the training camp. I was partially with him. I would just see him at the gym. But at the end of the day, with boxing, you can't really play with boxing. So it was disappointing. He's my older brother and I love him. But at the end of the day, if you don't do things right in camp, then things are not going to go right in the fight. But nonetheless, with his decision and I guess with the result of the fight, it pumped me up even more. I have more to prove now. And of course, he's my older brother and I love him. But at the end of the day, we both got into the sport, and we both know what it takes to keep ourselves in the sport. And not only that, but to keep ourselves in a high level. Fighting these great fighters. So you always got to be in tip-top shape, and if you're not, well, the things are not going to go your way.
And getting on to your fight, May the 15th in Carson, California, you'll be fighting the reigning and undefeated WBC Super-Bantamweight World Champion Luis Nery. Now, tell me, Brandon, what do you make of Nery as a fighter, as a champion?
I feel like he's a great fighter as well. He has that Mexican blood. We're going against another Mexican fighter, another lefty. But, all the hard work is in the gym. He definitely does have pretty good talent, but I feel like he's coming into my division, into the 122-pound division. I feel like he had a good track record in the 118, and I feel like in the 122 it's a whole different story. I mean, we're not underestimating him at all. We know what he comes with. He's strong, he's fast, he's crafty, and he moves pretty well. So we're taking all that into consideration, May 15th. And that's why, I stay in the gym, I work hard, and we've been working on tactics for May 15th.
And Luis Nery, like you say, he's a lefty. You're coming off that win last time over Damian Vasquez. He was also a southpaw. Does that make it easier to fight against a southpaw like Nery because of that fight with Vasquez, or do people read too much into statistics like that?
Yeah, I mean, it does help because my last fight, it was against lefty, and it helps me prepare better. It helps me be a little bit more comfortable fighting lefties and finding openings and angles to fight against lefties. So I definitely feel like it did help me, fighting lefties. And now that, I'm in training camp, I've been sparring lefties as well, just so I can get the timing right, the positioning, my angles, the punches, and know how to move against lefties. It's very important because, I can switch lefty and righty, but, most of my career, I think I've only fought on like 4 lefties. So, I hadn't really had the chance or the opportunity to fight against lefties. So now that I'm sparring against lefties and I'm fighting lefties more frequently, my body, my timing, my rhythm is getting more used to, the lefty fighting style.
And this was probably my personal favourite fight out of the Showtime schedule that they announced 2 weeks or so ago. You're both undefeated, you're both young world champions, you can both punch. Does this fight go the distance, Brandon?
I feel like it might go to the distance. I feel like it might not. I guess it's just how prepared he comes because I'm coming 100%. And if he can take my punches, and I guess the work rate that I come with, because I'm gonna go in to throw a lot of punches. I'm gonna work him. I'm gonna put the pressure on him. So I think it just depends whether he comes 100% or not. 100%, because I'm coming with everything. I'm stronger than ever. I had a really good camp, and I guess it just depends on how well he prepared. I mean, if he didn't prepare as well as me, then it's gonna be a nerdy night for him. But as far as I go, I expect a 12-round fight. Throwing a lot of punches, him coming forward, me coming forward. So it's gonna be a great fight. It's gonna be a great fight. Honestly, I'm excited, and I just can't wait, to be honest.
Neither can I. I cannot wait to watch it. And I also feel, Brandon, that you're a very focused guy. You live the life. I don't think you've ever overlooked anyone since turning pro. Are you expecting this to be the toughest fight of your career so far?
Yes, sir. Just with the on paper, on just what he comes with. I mean, he's not a world champion just because I'm pretty sure he worked hard enough to get there. He beat great opponents. So I mean, now it's time, just to put it all together and, just see who's the best, make the teams, That's what the beauty of boxing is, 2 great champions, and at the end of the night, only one's going to come out the winner. So I'm for sure going to, I'm still working hard, and I can't wait. And I feel like my hard work will really show on this team.
And the other champions in the division, you've got Murodjon Akhmadaliev, you've got the newly crowned champion Stephen Fulton. I just want to get your opinion, Brandon, on those guys, if you've seen much of them at all.
Yeah, they're great fighters, great champions, and it's my fight is already set up. Hopefully everything goes my way, then I will see Stephen Fulton in September. But as of right now, we're focused on Nery. As far as the other champions, I know it'll be a great, amazing fight with all of them. But I'm focused right now. I'm so excited for this upcoming fight. I seen Nery fought, and I told my dad that it will be an amazing fight against him. Now we're here, days away from facing him. So, it's just an honor. It's just a blessing and a great opportunity. And what better way than to share a ring with a world champion? And not only that, but, hopefully I take the belt home. And then after that, we'll work on, trying to take the belts away from the other champions. I know they're training hard, and I can't wait for that. I can't wait to mix it up in there with the best of the best and prove, that who's the best of the division,
And I want to ask you, the last question I've got for you now, and it's on that basically. It's a unique situation because you already know who you'll be fighting next if you win. A unification against the aforementioned Stephen Fulton. You're not supposed to, of course, overlook anyone, but because you know that if you do win, he is next. I'm guessing it might be a bit hard to not visualize that fight happening. My question, though, does it give you motivation knowing that if you win, your next fight is a unification, or does it do the opposite and maybe become a bit of a distraction from what's directly in front of you?
Oh, no, of course not. Our game plan right now is to focus on the fight. I feel like if it comes to it, it'll come to it. But as of right now, our biggest task and our opponent right now in front of us is Nery. And once after everything's over and done with, if I get the win, then we'll start, preparations for Stephen Fulton. But as of right now, we're working really hard. We're trying to, even increase my work rate a little bit higher and my punch output, my power, and my pressure, just so that we can go just so we can go into May 15th at 110%. I mean, I already feel at 100% right now. It's just a matter of finishing this training camp strong this weekend, and after that, just focus on weight, and just wait for May 15th, and I honestly can't wait. I'm super excited. This is what we wanted, and after everything's over and done with, if I get the decision, then Stephen Fulton's next. But no, I don't see it as a distraction. If anything, it's a motivation to know that I'm already gonna have amazing, great fights lined up for me, and that's what we dreamed of. This is what basically what I started to do boxing for, is to be in these big fights against big names and prove to be the best.
That's a brilliant mindset to have, my friend. Excellent. And just finally, Brandon, if you've got any closing words, I've been telling you, obviously, for a long time, there's a lot of guys over here in the UK that are supporting you, that have supported Omar, and more. I think that the fan base is growing all the time. What's your message to those guys that support you so much from over here in the UK?
Man, it's truly amazing. I know you guys may not have the chance to come see me fight. You guys just see me from the TV, and you guys are miles away, but the support is immense. I do appreciate it, and hopefully y'all tune in May 15th. It's gonna be a great night of boxing, and I just come forward. I just want to give exciting fights. I want to fight these amazing champions, and just prove to be the best. And I feel like if you're not in boxing to conquer and dominate the division or the sport of boxing, then I don't know what you're in boxing for. So I just want to give a big shout out to my UK fans, to you for this opportunity, for this interview. And I'm ready to go. I can't wait for May 15th. So thank you guys for the support. Much love. Appreciate it.
Okay, listen, Brandon, it's always great speaking with you, my friend. Best of luck for the 15th. I'll definitely be tuning in. I've got nothing else I wanna watch more than that. And I'm sure we'll catch up soon after you get that win, my friend.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, now it's time for part 2 on this week's show. This part, of course, the news part of the show. However, there is no news, so that is that's unusual. If anything develops from now to the end of the show, I will mention it at the very end. So, with none of that going on, let's move on to the preview part of the show. We're going to start here tomorrow night at the KRK in Russia. Over here, not much on the undercard, but the main event, we've got Magomed Kurbanov, who's 21-0. He takes on our very own Liam Smith, former 154 world champion. This one is for the vacant WBO international super welterweight title. It's a very risky fight for Liam Smith because, again, he's a guy that, he's been in some really big fights in his career and stuff like that. And, he's coming off of some good wins. He's coming off of 3 wins in a row. He's coming off quite a long layoff. And I wouldn't have thought that there's much money in this fight here because this Kurbanov's supposed to be quite good. I haven't seen him fight as a pro, but 21-0, 13 KOs. A win last time out against Dmitry Mikalenko, which was back in November. So he's been a lot more, active sooner than Liam Smith. Liam Smith's last fight was against Roberto Garcia in December of 2019. Since then, this guy's had 3 fights. But yeah, I'm trying to look into his background. I'm guessing he was probably quite a decent amateur. But yeah, anyway, I'm not going to get into that now. He's known as the Black Lion. He's 25 years of age. All the best to Liam Smith. You know, it's a tough fight. Like I say, I've heard good things about this guy here, Kurbanov, but Liam Smith's tough. Liam Smith can punch. He's experienced, much more experienced of the two. And I hope he can pull it off, man, because he still is probably one of the best fighters that we have pound for pound in the UK. Some people might not agree with that, but I think he's one of our best. He's mixed it at the top level. He's boxed Canelo. He's boxed Jaime Munguia. I don't know. He's a good fighter. But anyway, speaking of Canelo, it is Canelo Fight Week, and now we go on to that card there. It takes place at the AT&T Stadium in Arlington, Texas, USA. Let's start with the undercard. We've got heavyweight Frank Sanchez, 17-0 in a 10-rounder against Nagy Aguilera, who's 21-10. We've got Kieran Conway. Kieran Conway, obviously a British fighter. He's got that one loss. He's 16-1 with a draw. He's got that one loss to Ted Cheeseman, which, by the way, was a really, really close fight. I've got a feeling that I might have even been... Oh, no, sorry, it was a draw to Ted Cheeseman. His loss came to... Who did he lose to? Derek Asese. Yeah, his draw with Ted Cheeseman, I've got a feeling I might have even been at that fight. Yeah, I was at that fight, yeah. So, but, a lot of people thought he should have won that fight, by the way. Since then, he's kind of tread water, really. Hasn't done too much, but he's in there with Solomon Sissoko. 12-0, 8 KOs. A guy that signed to Anthony Joshua's promotional stable, and he was a bronze medalist in the 2016 Olympics. He lost to Daniel Yelusinov. He hasn't overly impressed me as a professional yet, I don't think, Sissoko. It's been a bit of a slow burn. Like I say, he's only had the 12 fights since 2016. Hasn't really boxed anyone of note. Well, he boxed Carlos Molina, so that looks bad on me. But apparently that fight was a lot closer than it should have been. But other than that, he hasn't pushed on from that Molina win, which was back in 2018. He's boxed a bunch of guys with a number of losses since then. The guys he's boxed since then, 14-3, 10-3, 23-9, 23-4, 21-10. This is a step up again, but I hope Kieran Conway can do it. It's a big opportunity for him, but again, it's a very hard fight. Let's not kid ourselves. It'd be nice to see him win, but I'm not quite sure. Elsewhere on the card for the WBO light flyweight world title, Elwin Soto, 18-1. He steps in against Katsunari Takayama, who's 32-8. That could be quite good there. But the main event, Canelo Alvarez, 55-1 with 2 draws. He fights here for the WBO World Super Middleweight title, which Billy Joe Saunders has. He's 30-0, but also Canelo defends his WBC and WBA World Super Middleweight titles. Billy Joe Saunders, like I say, 30-0. I'm going to come to you first here, Eddie. This is a fight that I think in the UK, a lot of people give Billy Joe a chance. In the US, I don't think anyone gives Billy Joe a chance, really. But you're one of the few people that I know in the US that I think know and appreciate how good Billy Joe is, actually.
Yeah, I was going to say that, too. It's funny because, not a lot of people really pay attention much to Billy Joe that are from here. But I think in this fight, they're going to get an opportunity to see, some class. This is it's not often, not constant. You get a chance to see two guys that is kind of, with these kinds of abilities fight. And Billy Joe doesn't necessarily look like he would have that kind of sauce that we like to call it. You know what I mean? Where he can box, he can defend. You know what I mean? He got great footwork. You know what I mean? Accurate from the outside. He's just a good all-around boxer. You know what I mean? He's got I don't want to say. I'm not even going to say that. But let's just say he's got sauce, and he can really box, and he's talented. So Canelo may be the pound for pound best fighter in the world right now. So regardless of how talented and how good Billy Joe is, he's still got to contend with Canelo. And I've seen, I'm watching guys like what's my man's name? I always struggle to remember. I don't know why, but I see a lot of guys just really struggling to land on Canelo, especially recently. He's been really, really good defensively, super, super sharp counter puncher, and he's just class. You know what I mean? It's going to be really difficult for Billy Joe to beat him, but I think he's going to make a hell of a name for himself in this fight, though, because he's fighting one of the best right now. You know what I mean? he's definitely gonna give himself a great. I'm certain he's gonna give a good account of himself. You know, he's gonna show really the class that he has.
Yeah, and speaking of all of that, you know, boxing IQ wise, I've got to really go back in Canelo's career to find someone who I think has the same IQ as Billy Joe, and you've got to go back a long way. I think, you know, Gennady Golovkin's got some ring IQ, but I don't care what anyone says. I still think Billy Joe, with his slickness, with his, you know, his ring IQ, his ring generalship, I think he you know, he's got more of that than Gennady Golovkin. I really do. And I think you've got to go back to maybe a Miguel Cotto, which, you know, he was old at that point when he fought Canelo, but Canelo didn't get him out of there. You might even have to go back to Floyd Mayweather, and that's a long time ago. The other thing, of course, is Billy Joe being a southpaw. You've got to go back again a far way in Canelo's resume to see the last time he boxed a southpaw, which, to my knowledge, I think was James Kirkland, who he took out easy, but the fight before that was a really tricky one, Erislandy Lara, which could have gone either way.
Lara is a difficult puzzle to solve. He moves a lot, but he still can punch. He's quick. He's crafty. You know what I mean? He's closer to what you would think a Billy Joe Saunders would be like, but different. You know what I mean? I think Billy Joe's a little. Forgive me for saying, I don't want to say better, you know, but it's just a little different. It's a little different. Lara uses his legs, I think, even a little more. You know, sometimes a little bit too much. You know what I mean? But yeah, you're right. I mean, you gotta look. He's never in with people who can really challenge him boxing, in boxing, skill wise. And I think in this fight it's going to be a little different. He actually can challenge him a bit. You know what I mean? A lot more than what, you know, most people would think.
Yeah, and I think for the first time in quite a long time, Canelo is going to respect the man in front of him. I don't think he respected Yildirim, obviously. I don't think he respected Callum Smith. I think he did respect Sergei Kovalev, actually. So it's not too far back. But, you know, he's been in there with plenty of guys that he just hasn't respected. He's been far superior to. But I think he's going to be a little bit cautious. Maybe that's a better word. Where I don't think he's been as cautious with these other people. I think that Billy Joe has, like I say, got such a high ring IQ. And I think that I don't want to say Canelo has to be careful, but he has to think. He has to think twice. And I think that will be the case. I think it's going to be a bit of a chess match early on. I'd be stunned to see like an early knockout or anything like that. However, I still think that Canelo is a clear favourite. I would love to see Billy Joe do it, but I can't see a way because Canelo for me is special. He is one of the pound for pound best in the sport, if not the pound for pound best in the sport. But yeah, Billy Joe as well, he's another guy who can look dreadful if he's fighting someone who's, you know, who is below his level, where he's a guy that will, I don't think, take training seriously if he knows he's going to beat the guy easy. You've got to go back in his career to you know, to see an A1 performance, and that was against David Lemieux, which was almost 3.5 years ago now. That's a long time in boxing. That's a long time. He's now in his 30s, and you know, Canelo Alvarez, I think, will bring that side out of Billy Joe where we will see the best of him. However, it has been 3.5 years since we've seen anything close to that. So I am a bit worried about that. I still think it's going to be a chess match early. I still think it's going to be exciting, but I do think in the later part of the fight, when Canelo warms into it, I think he will, you know, he will take over. He will start to dominate. I wouldn't be surprised to see a stoppage late on. I wouldn't be surprised to see Canelo win on points. I don't see a way Billy Joe can win. I'd love to be wrong. But yeah, it is a brilliant fight. It's a fight that I've wanted to see for a long time. And like I say, Billy Joe hasn't been in big fights for a long time. But yeah, this is one of the best fights that can be made in boxing, period, I think. So I'm really excited for it. But yeah, it's a tough ask for Billy Joe, especially when he's coming off fights against Martin Murray, who came out of retirement, against Marcelo Esteban Coceres, and that was a fight that he kind of scraped through. It was he was losing it potentially on the cards till he got the knockout in round 11, and that fight he had against Shefat Isufi, I mean, that's what he's coming off. And the one before that was against Charles Adamu, so he has had a dreadful run. And Canelo's a guy where even if he thinks he's better than you, he will still take you serious. He doesn't ever drop his game. Even though Billy Joe has done, I still think he's going to raise it. I'm just not sure it's going to be enough. It doesn't matter how much he raises it. But again, I hope I'm wrong. I'd love to see him do it. It would be probably one of the best wins of all time for a British fighter on the road.
Yep, I agree with it all.
Okay, well, there you go. Okay, well, that's it for the preview part of the show. We did the review part in part 1. We brought you the sole guest on this week's podcast. Part 2, no news just yet. If anything changes, I'll talk about it on the outro. We did the preview part just there, and to wrap up the show, the final thing to do is to come in with the outro, which I will do in just a few seconds. Okay, and this wraps up episode 290 of the BoxHard Podcast. I've been your host, Joey Coastman. Eddie Chambers has been with me for the duration of the show. A massive thank you to our sole guest on this week's podcast, the reigning and undefeated WBA Super-Bantamweight World Champion, Mr. Brandon Figueroa. The biggest thanks of all, though, goes out to you, the listeners. There has been one or two pieces of news break whilst we've been recording the show. Joshua Buatsi has had his opponent announced for May the 15th. He'll be boxing the undefeated 15-0 Daniel Blender dos Santos, who, by the way, has only beaten 3 guys with winning records, and the best of those 3 guys had a record of 7-2 with 4 draws. It's just a really bad opponent, considering the way they speak about Buatsi and the types of guys they were talking about him fighting soon. And it's late notice again. MTK Global have had to postpone their May 14th fight night. It was going to be headlined by Jay Harris. They're now looking to move that to a new date. That'll be announced soon. Top Rank have announced 3 fight nights in June. Shakur Stevenson will be boxing Jeremiah Nakafila for the interim super featherweight world title on June 12th. Naoya Inoue will be headlining on June 19th against Michael Dasmarinas. This will be a defense of Inoue's IBF and WBA world titles. And finally, Lomachenko makes his hotly anticipated ring return against Japan's Masayoshi Nakatani. Nakatani is one of the few guys to have taken Teofimo Lopez the distance, so that should be a great fight there. And the final piece of news, that fight, by the way, is on June 26th. And the final piece of news is some very sad last-minute news. Terry Harper has been forced to withdraw from her unification fight, which was set for May 15th against Hyun Machoy, due to damaging her hand in her final spar to wrap up camp. So it's extremely unlucky for her. She will undergo an operation next week. I'm wishing Terry Harper a speedy recovery. But that's about everything from myself. Enjoy your weekends, people. Stay safe, and we shall see you all again next week.